The Man Who Lost Time. There was once a man named Robert who lived in a quiet town in the countryside. He was a successful businessman. He owned a small company that manufactured high-quality furniture. By all external measures, Robert had achieved what most people dream of: money, respect, a beautiful house, and a stable career. But something was deeply wrong, though Robert couldn't quite put his finger on it. Every morning, Robert would wake up at 5:30 a.m., drink his coffee while checking emails on his phone, and spend the next 12 hours working. He attended meetings, made decisions, solved problems, and handled countless details that came with running a business. By the time evening arrived, he was exhausted. He would sit on his couch, turn on the television, and fall asleep within minutes. Weekends were supposed to be for rest, but Robert spent them thinking about Monday. He would review reports, plan strategies, and worry about the upcoming week. His wife, Sarah, would ask him to go for walks or spend time together, but he always seemed distracted, his mind half somewhere else at work. Years passed this way. Robert was 45 years old, and he couldn't remember the last time he had truly laughed. He couldn't recall a conversation with his wife that wasn't about logistics or family obligations. He had friends, but he rarely saw them. He had hobbies once. He loved painting and playing guitar, but those activities had disappeared somewhere between his 30s and his 40s, buried under the weight of responsibilities. One autumn day, something unexpected happened. Robert was driving to work when his car broke down on a quiet country road. It was early morning, before sunrise, and there was no cell service. He couldn't call for help. He couldn't even call his office to tell them he would be late. For the first time in years, Robert was completely disconnected from everything. He got out of the car and started walking. There was nothing else to do. The sky was beginning to turn pink and orange as the sun approached the horizon. The air was cool and smelled of earth and fallen leaves. The road was empty. No other cars, no sounds except for birds singing in the trees above him. Robert walked for what felt like hours, but he wasn't stressed or anxious about it. Instead, something strange happened. He started noticing things. He noticed the way the light was hitting the leaves, creating patterns of gold and crimson. He noticed how the birds' songs changed as the morning progressed. He noticed his own breathing, steady and calm. For the first time in a long time, Robert was simply present, not thinking about the future, not worrying about problems, not planning anything, just being. When he finally found help, a farmer with a truck who gave him a ride to the nearest town, Robert felt something he hadn't felt in years: peace. He called his office and told them he wouldn't be coming in that day. His secretary was shocked. Robert hadn't missed a day of work in over a decade. She asked if he was ill. He told her no, he just needed to take care of something personal. Instead of going to work, Robert went to a small cafe in the town. He sat at a table by the window and ordered coffee. He watched people walking by. He observed an elderly couple holding hands, smiling at each other. He noticed a young child pointing excitedly at something in a shop window. He watched a street musician playing a violin, and he actually listened to the music instead of just hearing it in the background. Something had shifted inside him. When Robert finally got home that evening, his wife Sarah was worried. She asked what had happened. He told her everything: the broken car, the walk, the sunrise, the feelings he had experienced. As he talked, tears began rolling down his face. He realized he had been lost for so long, and he hadn't even known it. That night, Robert made a decision. He wasn't going to quit his job or abandon his responsibilities. He was a realistic man. He knew he needed to work to support his family, but he was going to reclaim his life, piece by piece. The next morning, instead of waking up at 5:30 a.m. to check emails, Robert woke up at 6 a.m. and went for a walk with Sarah. It was only 30 minutes, but it was the first peaceful morning they had shared in years. He delegated more responsibilities at work. He hired a manager to handle some of the daily operations. His colleagues thought he was crazy. His accountant warned him that this might hurt profits, but Robert didn't care about maximizing profits anymore. He cared about something more important: having a life. He bought a guitar again and started playing for an hour every evening. At first, his fingers were stiff, and he had forgotten most of what he knew. But gradually, muscle memory returned, and music began flowing through his hands again. His wife would sit nearby, reading or knitting, simply enjoying his presence. On weekends, instead of reviewing business reports, Robert and Sarah began taking trips. Small trips at first, to nearby towns, to national parks, to places they had always meant to visit but never had time for. They rediscovered conversation. They laughed together. They made new memories. Robert reconnected with old friends. He called them and suggested meeting for dinner or drinks. Some of these friendships had been dormant for so long that the initial conversations were awkward, but eventually the old warmth returned. Most importantly, Robert learned to say no. When opportunities arose to expand his business further or take on additional projects, he declined. When people demanded his immediate attention, he learned to wait until the next day. He discovered that most emergencies weren't really emergencies at all. A year passed. Robert was no longer the richest man in town, and his company wasn't the biggest. But he was happy. Not the fake happiness that comes from achievement or status, but the real, deep happiness that comes from living deliberately, from choosing how to spend your time, from being present with the people you love. One evening, as Robert was painting in his studio, something he had taken up again, Sarah came in with 2 cups of tea. She set one down on his table and asked him what he was thinking about. "I'm thinking about how close I came to losing everything," Robert said. "Without ever really knowing, I had already lost it." "What do you mean?" Sarah asked. "I mean that I had been so focused on building a life, a successful life, a respectable life, that I had forgotten to actually live it. I was so busy accumulating time at work that I was wasting time everywhere else. I was rich in money but poor in everything that mattered." Sarah smiled and kissed his forehead. "And now?" "Now I'm rich in what matters," Robert said. "And that broken car? The best thing that ever happened to me." Closing reflection. That, dear listener, is the story of Robert. It's a story about time, perhaps the most valuable resource we have, and yet the one we waste most freely. The truth is, we often don't realize how much time we're losing until something forces us to stop. A broken car, an illness, a sudden loss, or sometimes just a moment of clarity. But here's the question for you. Do you need a broken car to realize what matters? Or can you make that realization now, today, by simply deciding to be present? The story of Robert is not just a story about one man. It's a story about all of us. We all have limited time. We all face the choice between living deliberately or living automatically. Thank you for listening to this story. I hope it gave you something to think about. If you enjoyed this story, please leave a comment and tell me what you thought. Did Robert's journey resonate with you? What would you have done in his situation? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story. Until next time, keep practicing English at home, and remember, time is the one thing you can't get back. Use it wisely. See you in the next video. Goodbye.